Warning: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please contact your local municipalities as well as a trade professional or general contractor before starting any do-it-yourself project. Hi, I'm Greg, and welcome to Greg's Do-It-Yourself Tech channel. If you're a new viewer, welcome. If you're an old follower, welcome back. Great to have you back. Today's episode is how to crimp Cat 5 and Cat 6 cable, and also why I don't like pass-through connectors. As always, please like, subscribe, and share if you find this video helpful or any of the other videos on our channel. We'd love to have you in the loop on other upcoming videos, and the best way to do that is to subscribe to our channel. So let's get going a little bit here. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about different tools you can use to crimp cables and different ways to do the same thing. If you just want to watch a simple video on how to crimp a cable, watch the first half of this episode, and I'll show you real fast how to do a simple cable crimp using the tools I like to use. If you want to see how to use different tools to do the same thing, please stick around, and we have plenty of information to share. So the first thing is the connectors we use. And we're going to take one out here, out of the box. Probably should have done this earlier. And these are called RJ45 connectors. Just in case you're curious what RJ45 means, RJ stands for registered jack. Basically everything, even the original telephone connectors that had the little weird 4-pin connector on it that would plug into a wall plate, those are all registered jack models. So basically anything related to telecom has a RJ number. So this is registered jack number 45, which is commonly used for Ethernet, which is what we're going to be talking about today. It's obviously the most common jack used in most computer-related products nowadays. So the big question that always pops up is the color coding of the wires, because you can't put wires in one of these connectors if you don't know the order they're supposed to go in. That pattern is specifically called EIA 568B. EIA stands for Electronics Industries Alliance. Basically, it's another set of standards, and this is the 568th standard for wiring. So there's all sorts of different wiring and specifications for cables and stuff like that. So this is number 568B. So basically the color code. This is the standard color code used for Ethernet. Now there's things called crossover cables and straight through cables and stuff like that. We are going to talk about straight through cables just to make things simple. So this is the color code you would normally see. And I'm going to explain it two different ways as we go through it. So starting from the left, you have white with orange stripe. The next one typically is considered orange. However, some, especially older cables and different manufacturers, will actually have a white dot on it. So we would refer to that, especially the old school way, as orange with white. So the first is white orange, next is orange white. But for simplicity of the video, we're just going to refer to the solid colors by their names. Just understand there's two different ways to name them. So again, starting from the left, we have white with orange stripe, solid orange. Then we have white with green stripe, and then all of a sudden the pattern breaks and we go to blue, followed by white with blue stripe, before we finally get back to solid green, followed by white with brown stripe, and the final is solid brown. Now that middle one gets confusing to people. Why on earth did they flip the blue around? Because everything else is nice and uniform, and everything was kind of sticking together, and then suddenly you have this goofy blue pair that just shoved itself in the middle. It's really hard to find a lot of information on that. What I can tell you is it's most likely related to old-fashioned telecom, because the earlier Ethernet cables only use pins 1, 2, 3, and 6, which is the orange and the green pair, The blue pair, even though it's there, was kind of meant more of as spare. If you wanted to plug, for example, a phone device in off the same cable, which you don't really do, but if you wanted to do some old analog phone or something like that off of it, analog phones start with that reversal where it's blue followed by white with blue stripe. So I think that was part of it. It may also have to do with some stuff with the crosstalk or something else, but basically that's why the flip is there. Now, for those of you who want to make up your own cables, doesn't really matter so much the colors as long as they're the same on both ends. However, what is important is that you follow the pattern, meaning it's going to be a color stripe followed by its solid. And then the next section will be, the next one, skip two over, and then the next one like that. So basically, you have to follow the pattern. The colors don't matter as much. The trick that I've seen, because I've seen a lot of people out there try to make their own cables, they just go in a pattern. Let's do all solids first. Let's do the stripes second or something like that. So you have, like orange, green, blue, brown, followed by, white with orange stripe, white with blue stripe, white with green stripe, white with brown stripe, or some goofy combination. These cables are what they call twisted pairs, where the color and the stripe of the color are actually twisted together, and we'll show you that in a minute when I take one of these cables apart. If you don't follow that, what you're going to find is that your cables don't work, or the speed gets reduced, or other weird things. So if you want to play games with the colors, again, this is just if you want to do your own personal thing. If you're trying to follow the industry standards, follow the colors I'm showing you. But if you want to play around, you can change the colors, but you cannot change where the stripes go and the solids, and they have to be the same. So if you wanted to put blue, for example, on pin 1 instead of orange, you could. But it has to be the same on both sides of the cable. So if it's going to be pin 1 on this side, then on the other end, as you run the cable and put another end on the other side, it has to be the same on both ends. Hope that's not too confusing. So the left is the actual pin 1 if we're looking at the connector. And I have two cameras here. This is the first time we're using camera 2. So let's use camera 2 to do this. And let's zoom in. And you look at the bottom of the connector. See if we can get it right smack in the middle there. And then let's focus it a little better. There we go. Oops, almost had it. So there's the connector. So pin 1, when you're looking at the connector flat down and the pin is on the bottom, we focus it in again. Come on. Almost got it. There we go. So again, looking at it from the bottom, where the cable would be inserted on the very bottom here, pin 1 is on the left. Okay. So anyway, back to what we were doing here, and we'll show you a diagram of that. You can see there, that's the color code. So starting with the one all the way to the left there is the white-orange. And that's pin 1. So let's go over a few different things here. We're going to show you again real quick how I like to do cables, and we can go into some of the other tools that you can be used for this. So the three tools I normally use to crimp cables like this are one of these cheesy little guys. Believe it or not, they are my absolute favorite. Let me zoom in this camera a little bit so you can see it better. Oops. Go the other way. There you are. So this is my favorite tool for stripping cable. Next up is a pair of electrical scissors. Now these are pretty neat. Took me a while to get used to them. I saw people using them out on the street and I thought they were ridiculous, but they are special scissors designed specifically for cutting cable. You can't do this with regular scissors. They'd probably slide off. They're not going to grab the cable and cut properly. These actually have little itsy bitsy notches throughout the blades that help them cut. And then I like a ratcheting. Let me zoom this out a little bit. I like a ratcheting style crimper. And the reason I like these is because as you click them, it holds its position until you've gotten all the way to the end and released, it's not ready to go. So you know if you haven't gotten it all the way through. Some of the ones where they don't do it that style, you could half press the cable in and it's not accurate. All right, let's take this back out a little bit. Now, the other thing to show you is there is another tool very similar for wire cutting, which is, again, this is the one we talked about, is this big guy over here. Does exactly the same job, but the reason I don't like this one is there's a lot more bulk to it. So I have to hold it open and mess around, which is not a big deal. However, when you're like me and I'm doing hundreds of cables sometimes in a day, this takes more time. I don't like it. This is also typically a much more expensive tool. You can get these sometimes for free with a connector when you buy them. Or if not, they're like a couple dollars at tops. So these are my absolute favorite ones. All right, let's get into terminating a cable. So first, and let me zoom in these cameras a little bit. There we go. And zoom in camera 1. There we go. Okay. And actually, I'm going to take camera 1 out a little bit. Okay. So let's start with this. So first, we're going to take this tool here, and we're going to bring it in about 1, maybe 2 clicks until it feels like it's just hovering on the cable. And I should say first, we're going to use at least half a fingernail, if not more, of cable. You don't need to cut it that close. In fact, the more you give yourself, the easier it is, especially when you're first getting the hang of it. We're going to spin this tool around. I'm not squeezing on the blade section here. I'm just spinning it around a little bit, as you can see here. And I'm going to pull it off. Now, there won't even really be a nick line here. You can barely see it. But if I push and I twist, it's going to break free. So the beauty of that is if I have to twist it, let me zoom it in a little bit more and do it this way. Focus it. There we go. So if I have to pull and twist, that means it's barely touched the inside of the cable. And the idea is we're trying to not nick the cable itself. So first time I use my handy scissors here is to cut the little rope here. That rope is called a ripcord. So we're going to cut that off. Now here's your pairs. And bring them right over here. And let's zoom it in a little bit more, or focus it rather, I should say. Right up there we go. Oops, almost there. Okay, there we go. So basically what we're doing here is we're going to unravel the cables. And you unravel it all the way to the bottom. Then what I like to do is after I unravel each one, I kind of lift them up a little bit. Fan them. So we got the first 2 colors chosen there. Next is the extra color. Let's see if we can get the green. And again, I'm just fanning them out a little bit so they actually just stay in position. We're going to skip over to the blue because, again, that's the weird flip over. Move this up just a little bit. So next we have blue, followed by white with blue stripe, followed by solid green. And again, see how I just fan it? each time you fan it, it basically just stays on its own. It doesn't go popping everywhere, and that's, I think, what people don't get. So again, I fan them all out. And what you wind up with is something that looks like that. Let's see. Let me show you. There we go. So now that the color's in the right order, what I like to do next is match it up to my thumb. So my thumbnail is right about the right length to cut one of these. So I match where you see where the insulation ends, my thumb begins. I then hold those cables right there, and with a scissor, I cut the ends off. Now what you wind up with is a perfectly set of colors that basically is about the same size as my thumbnail. Now all you have to really do is continue to hold it in position. And let me try to focus that in a little better on camera too. There we go. And just slide it right in. And if you look, before I even crimp it, let me zoom in camera 2 a little better. And I've seen people take pictures of these or use a magnifying glass if they have trouble seeing at that angle. But let's zoom it in. There you go. So the edges are right. And again, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my crimp tool and I'm going to squeeze it. Released. And now you have an end that's solid. Let's bring it back into camera 2's range there. And focus camera 2. And there you have a solid end. The other solid connector, I should say. And if you notice, the insulation is going straight up. Let me focus that a little better. There we go. The insulation is going all the way up to here. That's a really important thing to be looking at, because if that insulation is not up there, it's pulled out, and therefore it's not going to work properly. So basically the strain relief is off, and it is tugging on the cable, and eventually it'll probably fail. So if that's all you came to see, there you go. That's how you terminate a cable. For everybody else who would like to see some more of the different tools, because maybe you don't want to buy my expensive tools that I'm using, stick around and we got plenty more to show you. Okay, if you're still here, let's talk about a few other things. First off, my crimper here is just solid metal. Why is it solid metal? Well, it actually used to look like this, which is another crimping tool. And it had these handles. Over time, and I've had this tool for about 20 years, the rubber came off, and it came off a long, long time ago. So just to show you, the tools that I use, again, are pretty worn out over the years, but I'm going to give you links in the description of the video if you're interested in purchasing similar tools to the ones I use. But normally, like I said, this particular tool would have come with rubber handles to keep blue rubber handles to make it nice and neat, and it helps, but I'm so used to using it without it, so I don't care. All right. So let's say, for example, let's move on here, and let me cut the end off of here, again with my scissors. So and I'm going to take out one more end here just so we have one for demo purposes. I'm not going to crimp another one, but I am going to show you. Let's say, for example, you only had one of these tools. Let's zoom it in. And in all honesty, these particular tools, other than this little add-on little click here that keeps it closed like that, I hate that. Well, excuse me, not that. I hate this little thing over here, because it constantly spins around. But other than this, if you can find the old style ones that didn't have this little gauge setter, these are my all-time favorite tools that can do just about anything. So, maybe you don't want to buy the scissors. Those scissors I use are very expensive. So maybe you want something like this, or you have one of these already. So let's show you what it would look like to terminate with one of these. Now, here's the thing about this tool. Like a lot of cutters, the problem is when you go to terminate, if I was to grab this wire here and go like this and pull, even though I was able to break it free, there is a chance that I gouge the wires inside. And you have to be expecting that that's exactly what you did. So if I'm going to use one of these, what I'd recommend is that, especially if you're new to terminating cables, you can pull a chunk out like that. But if you look carefully, let me zoom this in again. Again, you see that thing called the ripcord. So now we can finally show you what the ripcord's for. You zoom that in a little better. So if you grab the ripcord, and as long as you have enough of a piece there to do this, pull this out a little bit, and you can grab it, you basically can just pull it back, and this is a guaranteed safety that the cable inside's intact. See how I was able to do that? So again, let's do it this way. Zoom out a little bit. So if I was going to do it this way with one of these tools, what I would be doing is basically, once I have the cable pulled back as far as I want it, I'm going to cut the ripcord again. I'm going to carefully cut away the insulation. And here's my pairs again. Now again, it's no big deal that they're wider. I mean longer, I should say. The longer the better when you're first getting started. So we pull these out. And again, after each one, I like to fan them, but just basically taking your finger and running them up so that they're nice and clean like that. Again, as you can see, as I do this, they kind of hold their position better. And again, I can hold the whole cable in my left hand while twisting from my right. So there you go. So again, we have all the colors right. Use my thumb as an example. Let's see if we get that zoomed in again on camera 2. There you go. Once I have an exact idea, I can take this and basically just chomp them. And same thing, basically, once they're in position, they're all right, I should be able to get an RJ45 jack to cover them. And there you go. So let's do one more example. Another tool that a lot of people have lying around. Right about there. Is this guy. Not the biggest fan of these. Let me zoom in. So get it where the light can see it a little better. Actually, probably over here on camera. Probably easier to see this one on camera too. Let me zoom in camera 2 a little bit. So the thing about this tool is it's got a bunch of different types of things. It's kind of an all-in-one tool, which is kind of cool in some ways. In some ways, it's annoying. There we go. So it's capable of a bunch of different things. First off, if you're using electrical, it's capable of having exact notch holes for different size cables. And the midsection, it's got spots to actually cut certain screws. They're cool, except like mine, if after one or two of them get stuck in there, you've ruined it. The upper section is what I normally use this tool for, which is crimping special type of connectors. We're going to talk about that more in a couple episodes when we talk about terminating coax cables. Because if we use things called butt splices or a couple other types of splices, these are really cool, this upper section there for that. And then right above there is another blade set. So let's back it out a little bit. And back out camera 1. And here, so again, great for cutting the end. But it doesn't always get it in one try, or it doesn't cut the string. So see how it's just dangling there? I got to pull that free. So what I would do with these, if I was going to use them, is I would put it somewhere in the bottom here and just lightly grab and pull. Which is, again, this is why I don't like this tool so much. But once you get enough of it off, again, the idea is it doesn't matter if you smash up this cable. In fact, I did. You can see if I zoom it in just right. Let me see here. Let's go back on camera 2. And look at, let's focus it. There we go. If you look right there, I don't think get that any closer. Yeah, see, there's a little notch right there. So I did nick that cable. And that's exactly what our concern is. When you're using these other tools, they can actually trash that cable. There we go, even better. See that little hole right there? Now, it might work perfectly fine, but if that hole goes through multiple pairs, it will short it out. Okay, so anyway, back to this. The whole point is, I don't really care because I have my ripcord, and that's exactly what I'm really trying to do. So let me zoom in camera 1 again. So, right about there. So I grab that ripcord and I pull. Then again, it's going to yank out a whole section of cable. See that? Then I can take either the outer or inner sections of this tool and just chomp it. So the outer one's great for the insulation, but the inner one is probably the best one for cutting out that ripcord. So I'm just going to go here, take it to that inner blade, and there you go. So now same thing. Let's back it out. So we're going to pull these way back. And again, fan them out. Okay. So again, once it's all nice and fanned out, right about there. Again, using my thumb as a point, I'm going to grab it there and I can cut here. And the only thing I don't, again, like with this particular tool is it gets a little chunky at the top. It doesn't really want to cut right. But in the middle, there is a nice little blade. You see how that worked a lot better? So again, if you do it right, they should be about equal, which they are. Again, let's focus it. And you can see how they're basically right on the money. Then we can take the crimp. We can get it in there. And there you go. And again, I'll crunch the end on and call it a day. Okay, so those are a couple different tools we can use. Let me zoom this back out. And actually, let me clean up a little bit real quick. One other thing I'd love to talk to you about before we move on to those pass-through connectors I wanted to tell you how much I don't like is I want to show you, with the last examples, I showed you cable that basically inside only had a ripcord. A lot of Cat 6 cable have a special little connector inside of them, or a little piece of plastic inside that actually separates the pairs out. Some Cat 6 cable has that, some of them have paper inside of them. But basically here, I'm going to open up a connector, and let me zoom in a little bit. See if we can get it just right. Now this type of cable I'm using for this example has a shielder on the outside. Basically, here again is the ripcord. Zoom in camera 2. There we go. But as we separate it out, this one is shielded. It actually has a little shield line in it, so we're going to put that to the side. But basically, if you peel these away, you'll see there's a piece of plastic right in the middle. That basically separates the pairs. When you're terminating a connector with that, basically you're just going to pull it all the way back as far down as it can and use whatever tool. Again, I'm going to use my favorite tools for this. And basically just cut it. And then you could start your termination process here. So basically you would just pull your ends off and spin it, and there you go. So basically you just pull it back to the insulation, cut that little chunk out of the middle, and put it away. Okay, now let's talk about the other thing. Why I don't like pass-through RJ45 connectors. So let me show you an example of what it looks like, and then I will show you the problems. So let me cut it. And basically the idea of these pass-throughs, they want to make it out that this is such a better way to do things because you don't have to worry if you got your colors right beforehand. You can see them on the outside. So one more time, we'll make another connector. And you can see once you get the hang of it, doesn't take super long to do these. Just to unravel them. I still will fan them out just for kicks, because that's the way I'm used to doing it. Okay. Now I am going to cut it a little bit just to make it easier for this. So say right about here. And we're going to feed it through. There we go. So the supposed advantage of these is that you can see your cable, your connectors on the outside. So basically everything's pushed in right. You don't have to worry about your length you cut them. And let me zoom this in on camera too so you can see it a little better. And you can see the cable sticks out of the top like that. Now the idea here is that the crimping tool is a little different from a normal one. I mean, I could stick it in here, but basically what'll happen is that the real tool, which I don't have because I don't like these things, basically what it does is as it crimps, it will also have a blade over here that cuts these ends off. So that's the advantage, is that you don't have to get your length right. You can visibly see that your colors are right on the outside, where the other cable you had to make sure that nothing jumped around. But here's why I don't like these, because I have been on many job sites where we ran into somebody was complaining that, hey, there's an issue with their device. And I would go over to that device, and what I found was that these were there, and that somehow, let me just cut the ends off here. There was enough of a chunk left on the end there, sticking out, that it actually caused the network jack to bulge and pull back out. Like this. Let me see right about there. So basically, the whole connector was not going in properly. What I did as soon as I saw these was I cut them out, put regular jacks on, and they worked fine. The other thing that you should see, let me zoom in on them. And this is, again, just me being old-fashioned about things. But if we zoom it in and focus it, you can see at the top that those even though they're cut, let me see if we can zoom in just a little more, focus it. There we go. Even though there's insulation around them, that little edge there, still there's a little dot of a conductor sticking out, as any cable would, because in the middle, where is it? There we go. There's always a little dot in the middle. So my concern is if you're touching a network jack that just happens to have metal for some reason on the outside, you're also risking that shorting out right across those metal right there. So you have it bulging where it could push it back. You have potential to short things out. And frankly, as I showed you before, I've done it the other way all the time. I don't have any problems. So once you get the hang of doing it the regular way, there's really no advantage, in my opinion, of these type of jacks, because I already know how to do it. And frankly, even just feeding this jack right now to make it do the pass-through effect took me longer than it would have just to stick it in and crimp it the right way. So they may or may not be bad. I don't know if somebody was doing like I just demonstrated, where I cut the the conductors on the outside using just a regular scissor instead of the right tool. So I don't know if somebody was playing around and didn't have the right tools to use them, or if it's the tool and maybe over time the insulation swelled. But whatever it was, I've been on multiple job sites where these connectors caused problems. And every time I saw it, I was like, oh, it's one of these again. Cut them off, put a regular one on. So that's my reasoning why I don't like these things. I've seen them in action where they've caused problems. They don't really save me any extra time because I've been doing this forever. And I hope my technique shows you that if you just fan them out, hold them, cut them, and stick them in, they don't jump around. And that's all the stuff that these pass-through connectors are supposed to help. But the reality is they're not that hard once you get the hang of them. So, my opinion, stick with what has been around for the longest time. I'd much rather have a connector that actually has solid plastic on the top here as another insulation spot between the hub and the connector itself, rather than opening with metal sticking out. And, just my opinion. It's got metal and it's got the connector cables coming out. So I don't like them. Doesn't mean people can't use them, but this is why I don't like them. All right, I hope this video was helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, please comment below in the video. Again, if it helped you in any way, please like it. Let us know what's going on. Like it, subscribe, share the video out to your friends. Hey, here's a great video on teaching you how to terminate cable. For more information on upcoming episodes and just general information, including links to other the products we use, some of the tools we use, and other information, you can visit us on the web at www.gregsdiytech.com. Again, I hope this video is informative. Please stick around. We got plenty more videos coming, and we hope you have a great day.